Hi, I'm Chris, and this is my retreat.
It's common to call your cottage a sacred place. This guy takes things to a whole new level.
There's kind of this childish delight about coming to a church and living and sleeping and making love in a church, or taking a bath in the steeple, or just living in what used to be an old church is quite delightful to most people.
You'll find Chris Jette's centuries-old converted church on the shores of Rice Point on beautiful Prince Edward Island. When Chris, an architect by trade, first spotted it, the church was on its deathbed. The iconic building that served as a place of worship for so many needed a savior.
It was clearly not in use, and we thought, well, this type of architecture is so prevalent in PEI and, you know, the pastoral setting of the island. And I found this, as an architect, found this really interesting. You know, the blend of all this old world architecture in this natural pastoral setting. So when I saw this starting to deteriorate, I thought, well, somebody has to be doing something about this. And I contacted the owner, and his plans for this building were that he was going to burn it or bulldoze it within the month.
Seeing that church disappear was a cross Chris couldn't bear, so he offered to buy it. The owner said he could take it for free. Well, not quite.
He was insisting that it get moved off site. He gave us 1 month to get it all together, and he said if it's not gone by the end of November, I'm tearing it down.
So, Chris moved the dilapidated church about 20 kilometers to Rice Point, with help, of course.
There was numerous trucks that would come and deliver the walls. The floor was rotten, and so we had to collapse all the walls like a deck of cards and then erect them back into place. The steeple came in 3 parts, and there was so much rot in a portion of the steeple that we had to build an entire new 2 walls. We didn't set out to create a cottage as such. We really wanted to save the building from decay or destruction. I thought originally that, you know, we were looking for a use for it. Thought it might be my office, but we thought the best use for it would be to keep people in it so that they could celebrate and take part in the church. And so we decided that the most practical use for it would be to turn it into a cottage as a retreat for people in this beautiful setting, this beautiful country setting.
A former house of God set in God's country. And speaking of higher-ups, Chris uncovers the history of some high-profile visitors.
In the mid-90s, II and Prince Philip and Prince Charles came to visit, had a Sunday service when they were here on the island.
Architect Chris Jette got this Scottish Presbyterian church for free. All he had to do was move it 20 kilometers down the road, rebuild the steeple, and then figure out what to do with it. Shortly after taking possession, he discovered the old building held a lot of history in its rotting walls.
We kept running into people that were, you know, so familiar with the church or had grown up beside the church. In fact, one of them was a bulldozer driver who was doing the finish grading. And then he goes, I remember this church. He goes, this is the one that was across from the airport. Yep. And he said, I used to come and hide out here, and my girlfriend and I, well, now my wife, we used to make out behind this church. And then he jumped down off the dozer and he took me around to where they had carved their initials in this one of the shingles. So we actually took it off and presented it to him.
Other guests weren't of the initial carving kind, unless you're talking sterling silver.
In the mid-90s, Queen Elizabeth II and Prince Philip and Prince Charles came to visit, had a Sunday service when they were here on the island.
For $3 grand a week, you too can have a royal slice of heaven. A bargain considering its lofty cachet.
People joke about it all the time, saying that, yes, we're one step closer to God. We've escaped to higher ground. When people first arrive, their approach is this sense of joy, and they see this heritage in front of them, and the layers that they can experience as they go through the space, and the surprises, and the delight of some of the whimsy that we've included in this. And we've got this quaint little country lane with overgrown with trees, and then it's this procession down the lane, and here you're presented with this rather formal view of the church, and that's much the way you would have seen it as approaching during any service.
While the exterior has preserved the sanctity of the church, Chris's work on the interior is a blend of modern finishes and hints of its history.
We kept the steeple as the entrance, but we've added that floor. We've kept the ceilings as high as we could, and then we balanced it with tubs that are in the steeple. In this great room, this used to be where the altar was, and everybody was always looking in this direction. And so we put a curtain wall of glass on that wall so they can take in this great view. And whether you're sitting here watching TV or sitting in a circle, you're always aware of that great view, and the Charlottetown Harbor over here, and St. Peter's Island, and Northumberland Strait, and the hot tub. It's all about the balance between the traditional and the modern. And we didn't want stark modernism. We wanted a warm, inviting, contemporary feel to it, but very comfortable, and trying to pay respect to the old world craftsmanship of the church itself.
By saving a dilapidated old house of worship, Chris has accomplished so much. For his future guests, he's put the holy back in holiday. But his efforts may also pay off in ways more celestial.
We're very pleased with what we've achieved, and there's this joie de vivre that's, we're taking the best of the old world and marrying it to the best of our today's world. And if there's a cottage in the sky for me at the end of all the better.